At a behavioral level, when it comes to the compasses, we often think about containing and constraining our behavior. And that containing and constraining, for a lot of us, may feel a little bit awkward. So let's get into it a little bit as we talk about the behavioral stuff and see what we can discover. To use the compasses well is to begin to understand the impulses that you have in your everyday life, right? There's tons of those. You're going to find them multiple times throughout the day, multiple times throughout even a 5 minute period. The first thing you're going to want to do as you try and get control of your behavioral stuff, particularly for as far as the compasses is concerned, is sort of count and name your impulses. If you know what they are, you can begin to constrain them in a way that does not suppress or repress them. So we'll talk about that too in a moment. But first things first, counting and naming your impulses is extremely valuable. Being able to know what you're feeling when you're feeling it, which for some of us sounds very, very elementary, but for a good number of folks, myself included, it takes a long time to figure out, more often than not, what I'm actually experiencing, what's happening, what's the impulse that's driving me to do X or Y or Z before we, even are consciously aware of it. Oftentimes our hands in the cookie jar, or our, mind has sort of drifted off into some sort of doom scrolling or what have you. That impulse control, being able to name and clarify what those impulses are, is sort of step one. Containment and the next sort of constraint is step two. And that is not about repressing desire. To be quite clear, when you repress or suppress those impulses, you're denying their sort of right to exist. And that turns into a bunch of ugly stuff way later. So naming them first and then working towards a productive application of those impulses and kind of redirecting is much, much more productive. If you imagine internally, you're a lot like a child, right? And as a child, it really doesn't make sense to get into a philosophical or theosophical war about whether or not you should clean up your room. What really makes sense is you should be redirected to turn the process of cleaning up your room into something that is more fun or more productive. If you talk to anybody or work with anybody who's, regularly interfacing with children, the power of a redirect is just profound. Good news, it works for you too. So taking some of these impulses as they arise and using the compasses on them to redirect and constrain that behavior into something that's going to be useful is really important. Another thing to bear in mind when it comes to this stuff is that sort of being aware of the impulse as a step one is really, really great. Step two is being aware that when your impulses are no longer serving you. So it's not a problem, for example, to, have an impulse to go, maybe eat something super sweet or go have a drink or what have you. It's a problem when those impulses turn into compulsive behaviors, or they turn into situations that result in negative outcomes for you as a person. So maybe it's, the stress on your heart from, X or Y or Z. Maybe it's the stress on your family members when you, overconsume alcohol or any of the intoxicants out there. When that happens, you need to sort of break out your compass. And the first thing you must do when it comes to understanding this is not immediately beat yourself to death with your compasses. That turns into a nightmare scenario. Again, that repression and suppression and all of the kinds of negative self-talk that come from getting control over your impulses and desires. Shame is not productive here, right? You want to name these things, you want to name these impulses, you want to name these behaviors, and then you want to build a rational plan for moving forward. In this way, the compasses are going to be a very, very useful tool for you, as they are for many Freemasons trying to solve problems in their everyday life. Be mindful, again, that the compass helps you become aware of and may help you structure some solutions for. It is not a tool by which you kind of beat yourself up or attempt to turn into some sort of ascetic, right? So it's just as bad to overconstrain your desires, to try and say, listen, I'm going to go live this monk kind of lifestyle with, no surplus food, no surplus any of the things, and try and deny all impulses. That doesn't work either. It's not sustainable long term. It may feel good for the moment as a kind of black and white scenario, but you want to live a full and productive life with people around you, and sometimes that means enjoying nice things. So, like food. So as you go through this, this process with your compasses, again, be mindful of those impulses and where they become excesses and where they become something that you can kind of work with to reshape into more productive behavior.